Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG. We put some more card picks for new Capenna on the back burner. Come check them out tomorrow because I didn't even see that commander cards got spoiled, and they're on the loose. That's right, almost all the commander cards have been spoiled. We're going to run through them in this video real quick. Not a whole lot of commentary going to be going down because these are commander cards, but I will give you a quick impersonation of what I think they're worth and if they're going to have some value because, well, sometimes commander cards just get downright pricey. So before we get started, remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Comments down below feeds the YouTube algorithm. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I appreciate any help you can give me. Don't forget to check out the links in the description to the eBay store, Patreon, where we'll have prizes and drawings monthly, and there's an email in there in case you just want to reach out and say hi. So let's get started, guys. I hope you enjoyed the last video about inflation because this is going to be the first product where all the commander decks are going to go up in price. So these cards will probably be a little more expensive than normal. But let's take a look, see if they're any good. First one we have a false floor, 4 colorless. When it enters the battlefield tap, it's an artifact. Creatures enter the battlefield tap when this is in play. 2 and tap, exile false floor, exile all untapped creatures. Activate only as a sorcery. So that's very interesting. Uh, Yeah, it'd be a good thing to have on the playfield to exile all the attacking creatures. If you can go off as not a sorcery. But if you can fog off a defense and then fire this bad boy off, you'll be good to go. All right, next we have Vivian Stampede. So for 2 green and 4, each creature control gains Vigilance, Trample, and Melee until end of turn. That is an old commander favorite. At the beginning of your next main phase this turn, draw a card for each player who was dealt combat damage this turn. It's okay, but for 6 mana, probably not the best thing to be doing. Next, we have Scepter of Celebration. So, green and 2 for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has +2/+0, and trample. When an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green and white citizen tokens. Equips for 3. Seems pretty good in those token decks, but also seems very blockable. So we'll have to see. I don't think it's going to be breaking any records or anything, but probably kind of cool. Next, we have Crash the Party. Green and 5 instant, create a tapped 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token for each tapped creature you control. This can get out of hand at the end of a turn in a token deck where you have a whole bunch of 1/1s that you swing with. Um, and like if they block like 5 of your 1/1s you swing with, you cast this for 6. Now you have 5 4/4 Rhinos. Boy, it gets ugly quick. This may be a doozy that people like to play. Next we have Seize the Spotlight for red and 2. Each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. For each player who chooses Fame, gain control of a creature that player controls till end of turn. Untap those creatures. They gain haste until end of turn. For each player who chooses Fortune, you draw a card and create a treasure token. Very interesting. I don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play because, to be honest with you, I would probably give you Fortune forever. Unless I had no creatures, then I would probably give you Fame. But anyway, moving on. Life of the party. So for red and 3, get an 0/1 with first strike, trample, and haste. That sounds like a deal. Okay. Anyway, whenever life of the party attacks, it gets +X/+0 to end a turn where X is the number of creatures you control. That's just got big quick. When life of the party enters the battlefield, if it's not a token, each opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. Wow. That is very interesting. Not sure how I feel about that. I'm sure somebody will figure out something to do with it. Moving on. All right, we have a split card. We have Indulge for a red and 2. Whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, create a 1/1 green white citizen token creature that's tapped and attacking as well as a sorcery. Then you have Excess on the other side, which is the Aftermath. Create a treasure token for each creature you control that dealt combat damage to a player this turn. All right, not the greatest in the world, but it's a thing. Next, we have the Grand Crescendo. So for 2 white and X, it's an instant. Create 1/1 green and white citizen tokens. Creatures you control gain indestructible to the end of turn. This is a great way to block and then kill your opponent, since all your creatures gain indestructible once you make them. I think this is going to be a very high dollar card and see a lot of play. This is probably easily going to be $5, $10 card, maybe even 15. Next we have Jailbreak. So for a white and 1 sorcery, return target permanent card in an opponent's graveyard to the battlefield under their control. When that permanent enters the battlefield, return up to one target permanent card with equal or lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. That is the strangest reanimator effect I've ever seen. Um, I mean, I'm sure it might be worth a little something once somebody figures out how to break it, but to be honest, I don't see this being played a lot. Next, we have Aerial Extortionist, 2 white and 3 for a 4/3 flyer, not terrible. Whenever he enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, exile one of the target non-land, exile up to one target non-land permanent for as long as that card remains exiled. Its owner may cast it. Whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hands, you draw a card. Alright, so basically you make somebody cast something a second time, you draw a card for it. I can see this getting some play in a white deck. Not the most terrible thing I've seen. Next we have Tivit, Seller of Secrets, black, blue, white, and 3. Wow, for a 6/6 flying ward 3. Whoa. Alright, Council's Dilemma. Whenever this card, Tivit, enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery. For each evidence vote, you investigate. For each bribery vote, you get a treasure token. While voting, you may vote an additional time. Huh. Very interesting. Lots of mana, maybe a good one of the 99 to reanimate, but I don't see it causing any big waves. Next, we have the boss's chauffeur. So for a white and 4, he enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters equal to 1 plus the number of other creatures you control. He has Alliance. When another creature enters the battlefield you control, put a +1/+1 counter on him so he can get bigger. And when he dies, create a 1/1 green creature token for each +1/+1 counter. Okay, so that's not bad for 5. Because you can use those token effects and make like 5 tokens and put 5 +1/+1 counters on this guy that when he dies, you get 5 guys back plus whatever else he's already got on him. Yeah, I can see us easily getting a lot of play in a token deck. Next, we have the Selvin Facetaker. That's disgusting. Anyway, a blue and 2 for a 1/4. It can't be blocked. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have the Facetaker become a copy of another target creature until the end of turn, except it's 1/4 and has this creature can't be blocked. That could be a very useful effect with creatures who have weird combat abilities, end of turn abilities, or abilities in general. So yeah, this might see some play in blue. We'll see. Next, we see change of plans. So blue 1 and X, instant. Each of X target creatures you control convene. All right, that's where you draw a card. If you discard a card, you get +1/+1 counter. You may have any number of them phase out. It's probably better combat tricks than this because you can only target your creatures, but we'll have to wait and see. Skyway Robbery, blue and 3 for a 3/3 flyer. Has Escape, which is a blue and 3. It says exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. Oh, it's Escape for like Theros. So when you do that, you can play this from your graveyard. When it escapes, whenever Skyway Robbery deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell from among cards exile with Skyway Robbery without paying their mana cost. That's disgusting. So this should have been a mythic, and this is easily $10 to $15. Yeah, this is just bonkers. I'm gonna exile all my Sky Diamonds and my Oblivion Stone and blah blah blah. Oh look, I now laid my Skyway Robber and I punch you in the face, and now I cast my powerful artifact that I exiled with it. That's just some amazing recurrence. That's a great card. Next we have Writ of Return, 2 black and 3 sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tap. Has Cipher. When you may exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to the player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So this is your basic 5 mana resurrection spell that can keep casting for free if you punch somebody in the face with it, which would be great with that blue card. It says you can't be blocked. This will probably see a lot of shenanigan play. So yeah, easily a good $5-10 card. Oh look, it's life insurance. That's hilarious. Black, white, and 3 enchantment. Has extort, which means when you cast a spell, you play a white or a black, and if you do, the opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you lose a life and create a treasure token. Very interesting. I think it's going to play very well with Stimulus Package because your creature dies, you lose a life, you create a treasure token, sacrifice a treasure token, put a creature into play, so forth and so on. Yeah, that's 4 colors, I know. But remember, a stimulus package makes treasures. It makes your lands make treasures with the other green cards, so it's not all that hard to cast this. I see that easily being a combo. Anyway, moving right along. We have Killer Service. So for a green and 2 enchantment, when Killer Service enters the battlefield, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. That's interesting. Beginning of your end step, you may pay 2 colors, sacrifice a token. If you do, create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token. That is disgusting. Yeah, so here's something for all them food decks out there and food lovers and Commander. Next we have Master of Ceremonies. So for a white and 3, we get a 3/4. God, it's hard to read. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chooses money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player who chooses friends, you and that player create a 1/1 green white citizen token. For each player who chooses friends, money, what's the other one? Secrets. Who chooses secrets, you and that player each draw a card. For 4 mana, this seems very powerful with lots of shenanigans. I see this seeing a lot of play. Next, we have Prosperous Partnership, white, red, and 1 enchantment. When Prosperous Partnership enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 green white citizen tokens, which is funny because this is a green. Tap 3 untap creatures you control, create a treasure. Again, works very well with Stimulus Package. I think the Stimulus Package is going to be a very, very big include in a lot of these um, token decks like this, along with the green card that makes treasures. Mask of the Schemer, a blue and 2 equipment artifact. Whenever the equipped creature does combat damage to a player, it convenes X, where X is the amount of damage dealt to a player. Um, I mean, this to make creatures very big. It also means you can deck yourself like nobody's business. Um, I mean, if you're playing some kind of weird discard deck, this might be a thing. Currency Converter. Oh, here we go. Cash Register. So for 1, you get an artifact that says whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. 2, draw a card, then discard. Okay. Put the card exile with currency converter in. Put a card exile with currency converter in your graveyard. If it's a land card, create a treasure token. If it's a non-land card, create a 2/2 black rogue creature token. Wow, that is amazing. It's wow. It's card draw. It makes something out of your land and other stuff. I think this is going to see a lot of play. This seems really good. Next we have Obscure Confluence. So blue, black, white, and 1. It's an instant. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Oh boy, here we go. Until the end of turn, target creature loses all abilities, has base power of toughness 1/1. Target creature convenes. Target player returns a creature card from their graveyard to their hand. Alright, that's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought that was going to be some weird um, counterspell-ish draw a card thing, like Cryptic Command or something. So that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Probably just okay. Next we have Rose Room Treasurer. So for red and 3, you get a 4/3. As Alliance, when another creature enters the battlefield under your control, create a treasure token. If this is the first or second time this ability has resolved this turn, otherwise you may pay X. When you do, Rose Room Treasurer deals X damage to any target. Wow. That's pretty good with a lot of mana. I think it might see a little bit of play, but honestly, I think it's going to be too hard to activate to get anything out of it. Next, we have In Too Deep. So for 2 blue, you have an aura with split second. Enchant creature, planeswalker, or clue. Interesting. Enchanted permanent is a colorless clue artifact with 2 sacrifices, artifact, draw a card, and loses all other abilities. So this is a very amazing removal spell. You get a creature, a planeswalker, or a clue. Um, and it's got split second, which means you can't do something to stop this from happening. For those of you who don't remember, split second cannot be interacted with. It has to resolve first. So this is an amazing removal spell. I think it's going to see a lot of play in blue decks, especially just for 2 blue. It's like an after the fact counter spell. Anyway, moving on. Misfortune Teller, a black and 3 for a 3/1. Has Death Touch. Whenever Misfortune Teller enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 2/2 black rogue creature token. If it was a land card, create a treasure token. Otherwise, you gain 3 life. This just seems to kind of do it all, doesn't it? Seems like a good card for black. Next, we have Avian Courier, a blue 1 for a 1/1 flyer. When it attacks, you choose a courier. Choose a counter on a permanent you control. Put a counter of that kind on target permanent you control if it doesn't have a counter of that kind on it. Fine for the counter stuff. Probably pretty good to pop around shield counters. I'm sure somebody will figure something out with it, but I'm not impressed right now. Cabaret Confluence. So green, white, red, 3. Sorcery, you get to choose 3. So is this the cryptic command we're looking for? Create a token. That's a copy of target creature you control. It gains haste. Sacrifice to begin next end step. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Not bad. Creature target player controls gets +1/+1 and gains first strike till end of turn. Not too bad. I think 6 mana is a lot. They'll probably see very limited play. Next we have the Agent's Toolkit, green, blue, and 1 for a clue. Agent's Toolkit enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, a flying counter, death touch counter, and a shield counter on it. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield you control, under your control, you may move a counter from Agent's Toolkit onto that creature and then sacrifice it to draw a card for 2. This seems really good. I mean, just throwing those counters on things just seems phenomenal, especially for 3 mana. You get all those different effects. Plus, you can draw a card with it later or whenever you need to. I like it. I think a lot of decks are going to play this one. Next, we have Gavel of the Righteous. So for 2 colorless, we have an equipment. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put a charge counter on Gavel. Equip creatures +1/+1 for each charge counter, as long as Gavel has 4 or more charge counters on it. Equipped creature has double strike. Ugh. To equip it, you got to pay 3 life or remove a counter from Gavel. Yeah, this seems really busted. This is gonna be a great card. Everybody's gonna love it. Next, we have Angelic Sleuth. So for a white and 2, we have a 2/3 flyer. Whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, investigate. Decent ad for a counter deck or a deck that has counters or what have you, but I'm not impressed. Next, we have Resourceful Defense. White and 2, whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. For a white and 4, move any number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent. Again, apparently this counter stuff is going to be a serious thing for one of these deck designs. I think right now there won't be enough to make this valid though, but we'll have to wait and see. So Family's Favor, green and 2. Whenever you attack, put a shield counter on target attacking creature. Till end of turn, it gains whenever this creature does combat damage to a player. Remove a shield counter from it if you do draw a card. That's an amazing enchantment. That's almost a draw engine for yourself. I see us getting a lot of play in green decks. Anyway, Storm of Forms, blue and 3 an instant. Whenever you cast a spell, copy it for each kind of counter among permanents you control. You may choose new targets for the copies. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hands. Oh my god, this is going to be nuts. If you have a deck full of nothing but counters, you could not even wipe, you could bounce the entire board of non-land permanents your opponent controls by casting one spell. This is like, oh god. This is like that blue overload card all over again. Man. Alright, next we have Contractual Safeguard, white and 2. It has a Minton. If you cast this spell during your main phase, put a shield counter on a creature you control. Choose a kind of counter on a creature you control. Put a counter of that kind on each other creature you control. That's disgusting. Yeah, so you cast this on your turn and everything gets a shield counter so it doesn't die. This is going to be busted. People are going to play this a lot. Next we have Broker's Confluence. Anyway, white, blue, green 2, instant. Alright, so this is the big one for these guys. Choose 3, proliferate, could be good. Target creature phases out, not too bad. Counter target activated or triggered ability, that could also be good. So this is more like a cryptic command than anything else, I think, minus the draw cards. But if you have those other cards we talked about where, things with counters do cool stuff, proliferate seems pretty sweet. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Next we have Damning Verdict. So for 2 white and 3, destroy all creatures with no counters on them. So that's obviously the deck that we're talking about right now with where everything gets counters. This is going to be an amazing wrath for that deck. It's going to really help it out. Skyboon Evangelist, white 4 for a 3/3 flyer. Enters the battlefield, support 6. Good God. Whenever a creature with a counter on it attacks one or more opponents, that creature gains flying until the end of turn. Seems pretty powerful, man. Park Heights Maverick, green and 2, for a 2/2 with Dethrone. Park Heights Maverick can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. All right. Whenever Park Heights Maverick deals combat damage to a player or dies, proliferate. Okay, part of the whole putting counters on things stuff. It seems okay. Um, Flawless Forgery, 2 blue and 3, casualty 3, which means you sacrifice a creature 3 or greater, it copies this spell. Exile target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. Copy that card. You may cast a copy without paying its mana cost. Oh, wow. So you could literally like copy two of the most powerful things an opponent has in his graveyard spell-wise and just decimate his field. I mean, think about running across somebody who's using a lot of ultimatums or something like that. You pop this bad boy off, and you're like, yeah, I'd love to cast your ultimatum you just used on me, plus this other cool thing you got in here. I see this being a very pricey card and used quite often in blue. All right, extravagant replication, 2 blue and 4. At the beginning of your upkeep, it's an enchantment. Create a token that's a copy of another target non-land permanent you control. Oh yeah, that's gonna see a lot of play. Um, yeah, we've already got a lot of effects that do this kind of thing, and this is just another one of them. I think it's gonna be a pretty sweet card. People are gonna use it. Dogged Detective, a black and 1 human rogue. When Dogged Detective enters the battlefield, surveil 2. That's pretty sweet for a 2/1. When an opponent draws their second card each turn, you may return Dogged Detective from your graveyard to your hand. So this seems pretty sweet. The ability to surveil and fill your graveyard up, plus get the card draw on top that you want. The fact this doesn't go away if they draw an extra card because it goes back to your hand. I think it's going to be one of those cards that gets a lot of play in any kind of black deck. Next here we have Xander's Pact. So 2 black and 4, casualty 2. Again, sacrifice a creature 2 or higher, copies this. Each opponent exile a top card of their library. You may cast spells from among those cards this turn. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to that spell's mana value rather than pay its cost. That seems dangerous. But who knows? There could be a way that could make this really, really busted because 6 mana playing against 4 people, you could have some real stuff going on here if you find a way to protect your life total. But paying life, it's not a way. I don't know. I have to wait and see what you guys come out there with all your brewing skills. Next we have Waste Management, black and 2, kicker black and 1. So exile up to 2 target cards from your single graveyard if a spell was kicked. Instead, exile target player's graveyard and create a 2/2 black rogue creature token for each creature card exiled this way. Sweet Jesus. So for 5 mana, you can build an army in an instant if you've wrathed somebody's board, basically. This is going to see lots of shenanigans and probably lots of playing Commander. Next, we have Cyrix, Carrier of the Flame. That's right, guys. A legendary phoenix that you can play as a commander. 1 red, black, and 2 for a 3/3 flying haste because it's a phoenix. That's what it did. That's what they do. That's their jam. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature card left your graveyard this turn, target phoenix you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Wow. Whenever another phoenix you control dies, you may cast Strix Carrier of the Flame from your graveyard. Wow, so it's kind of like almost giving you a chance to make a phoenix deck. If you can't do one now, you might be able to do one in the future. There are quite a few phoenixes out there, and that sounds pretty cool. Um, I mean, probably not going to be very good, but man, would it be fun. Spellbinding Soprano. So for red and 1, you get a 2/2. When it attacks, instant sorcery spells you cast this turn all cost 1 less. That's disgusting. Um, Encore, a red and 3. That means exile this card from your graveyard for each opponent. Create a token that's a copy. Create a token copy that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the end of the turn. Oh my god. So for 4 mana, if you have 4 opponents, this is in your graveyard. You can encore it, put a copy out for every opponent, swing at all of them, and have all your instants and sorceries cost 1 less. This is easily going to be part of a combo of some way, shape, or form. Basically, you're getting to cast this for free and punch everybody in the face. I think it's going to be a great card, and people are going to do a lot of just disgusting things with it. Next, we have Smuggler's Buggy. So for 4 colors, you get a 5/5, Hideaway 4. For those of you who don't know, Hideaway means you take that number of cards, look at them, exile one of the rest of the bottom in random order, and then when you meet a certain condition, you cast that card, which with this one it says, when the Buggy deals combat damage to a player, you may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. If you do, return the Buggy to its owner's hand. Alright, now this is a bit much. The ability to just constantly lay this, crew it for 2, punch somebody in the face, and cast a card for free is just disgusting. This thing's going to probably have to get banned. Like, this is just wrong on so many levels. This is the ability to do this unimpeded is very, Very easy. Now, with that said, this is also the kind of card that will make everybody on the table hate you. So be careful how you play it. Moving right along. Sinister concierge. So for a blue 1, you get a 2/1. When he dies, you get exile it and put 3 time counters on it. If you do, exile up to 1 target creature and put 3 time counters on it. Each card exiled this way that doesn't have suspend count, that doesn't have suspend, gain suspend. Um, and then you remove a time counter, so it actually comes back into play. So it's basically a card never goes away. Very interesting removal for blue as well. Next here we have make an example. So for this one, we have a black and 3 sorcery. Each opponent separates the creatures they control into 2 piles. For each opponent, you choose one of their piles. Each opponent sacrifices a creature in their chosen pile. Piles can be empty. Very interesting. It's a targeted half wrath of black for only the opponents. This is going to be a card that gets used quite often. It's probably going to be pretty sweet. Next we have Maestro's Confluence. So for a red, black, blue, and 3, this again looks like a cryptic command style card, but it is 6. It's a sorcery. Choose, return target mono-color instant or sorcery card from graveyard to your hand. Very sweet. Target creature gets -3/-3 in a turn. Not too shabby. Go to each creature target player controls. Also okay. For 6 mana, I think we can do better, but somebody will probably play it. Next we have Audacious Swap. So for red and 3, we got a little Indiana Jones action going on with an instant. Casualty 2, sacrifice a creature 2 bigger, you get to copy the spell. The owner of target non-enchantment permanent, that's a mouthful, shuffles it into their library and then exiles the top card of their library. If it's a land card, they put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, they may cast it without paying its mana cost. Very interesting removal spell. I guess you could use this on yourself too to try to cast something really screwy. It is an instant. Yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of weird combo with this and Tybalt's trickery. Anyway, moving on. We have body count. Black and 2 has spectacle. For those who don't know what spectacle is, if you've dealt damage to somebody, you can cast something for the spectacle cost. Well, they just have to lose life. You don't have to deal damage per se. Draw a card for each creature that died under your control this turn. Spectacles 1 is pretty good instant, especially when you consider that if you attack with 4 creatures, they block 3 of them die, 1 gets through. You can spectacle this for 1, draw 3 cards. This seems like a very sweet card, especially in like a black-white deck where you can Wrath and then draw a card for, the 10 creatures that you killed this turn for 1 black. I think this thing's going to be busted. Just thinking about that. Next we have Parnes, the Subtle Brush. So for a red, black, blue, and 2, we have a mythic 4/4 legendary vampire wizard. Jesus. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes target spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell unless that player pays for life. Pretty sweet. Whenever you copy a spell, up to 1 target opponent may also copy that spell. They may choose new targets. Okay, so if I bolt somebody and I fork it, I can now bolt them, but now they also get to bolt because I copied a spell. They get to copy the bolt, so I can bolt them for 6. They can bolt me for 1, and that's the simple version. Wow, this thing's gonna get confusing. Anyway. Alright, we have determined iteration. So for a red and 1, you have an enchantment. At the beginning of each combat of your turn, you can populate. Alright. To populate, you create a token of a copy of a creature that you control. The token created this way gains haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Alright, so this is a pretty good card for those token decks. Do like it. Next we have Cryptic Pursuit, red, blue, and 2 enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell from your hand, manifest the top card of your library. Ugh. So for those of you who don't know, manifesting means you take the top card, you put it face down, it's a 2/2 creature, and you may flip it face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature. Whenever a face down creature you control dies, exile it if it's an instant or sorcery card. You may cast the card until the end of your turn. Oh wow. So if you don't get an actual creature and someone kills it and say it's a removal spell, you can be like, I block your 2/2 with my 2/2. They both die. Now my removal spell gets exiled. Now by the end of the turn, I can still cast it. So now I'm going to cast it and kill your other creature I couldn't kill before. This thing seems sweet. Like this a lot. So with that said, that's the end of all the Commander spoilers. Thanks for coming along with me to take a quick view of them. There are some amazing things and probably some broken things in there that I haven't even got a chance to look at all of them yet, and put a lot of thought into it. But the video's already been long, and I appreciate it if you stayed. Until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table. Have a good one.